This is the image they said we would never see. For a decade, Donald Trump has been the Teflon Don. Impeachments bounced off him. Indictments boosted his poll numbers. Civil judgments were delayed, appealed, and bonded away. He seemed to live in a reality where consequences were for other people. But this morning, Saturday, January 24th, 2026, the Teflon just melted. Breaking news out of New York City has plunged the American presidency into a state of absolute chaos. A New York State Supreme Court justice has just issued an order for the immediate execution of judgment against the Trump Organization. This isn't a threat. This isn't a warning. This is a seizure order. As we speak, the New York City Sheriff's Office, the agency responsible for enforcing civil judgments, is reportedly preparing to serve foreclosure notices on some of the most iconic properties in the Trump portfolio. We are talking about 40 Wall Street. We are talking about the Trump Tower commercial spaces. We are arguably talking about the private jet. Why now? Why when he is sitting in the Oval Office? Because the financial contagion we talked about yesterday, the Japan bond crash, has claimed its first high-profile victim, the bonding agency that was securing Trump's massive civil fraud appeal. The liquidity crisis in Tokyo caused a margin call in New York. The insurer pulled the bond. Trump, cash-strapped from the campaign and the ongoing legal wars, couldn't replace it in the 24-hour emergency window given by the court. The stay is lifted. The shield is down. For the first time in American history, a sitting president is facing the active liquidation of his private business empire by a hostile state government. The Secret Service is currently in a standoff with local law enforcement regarding access to these buildings. The White House counsel is screaming for the Supreme Court to intervene, and the president is reportedly apoplectic, threatening to federalize the National Guard to protect his property. We are watching the collision of capitalism, the Constitution, and the crash. In this special report, we are going to break down exactly how this happened. We are going to look at the assets on the chopping block. We are going to explain why the Japan shock made this inevitable. And we are going to answer the question, can New York State actually evict the President of the United States from his own tower? Buckle up. History is being written in real time. To understand why the sheriff is moving today, we have to understand the financial plumbing that failed last night. Remember the $464 million civil fraud judgment from 2024? The one brought by Letitia James. Trump appealed it. To stop the seizure of his assets while the appeal played out, he had to post a bond. A shitty company stepped in, vouched for him, and put up the guarantee. For 2 years, that bond held. It was the dam holding back the floodwaters. But yesterday, the global financial system shook. The Japanese bond market crashed. The yen carry trade unwound. Trillions of dollars in liquidity evaporated from the global banking system in hours. It turns out, according to leaked reports from the Wall Street Journal, the reinsurance consortium backing Trump's appeal bond was heavily exposed to Japanese commercial debt. When Tokyo collapsed, their balance sheet imploded late Friday night. Regulators or the company's own risk committee forced a de-risking event. They informed the New York court that they could no longer secure the Trump judgment. They withdrew the bond. Usually a defendant gets 30 days to find a new bond, but this is New York. This is Letitia James, and this is a judge who has lost all patience. The court ruled that given the precarious nature of the defendant's liquidity and the global financial instability, no grace period would be granted. The logic was brutal. If the president is truly worth billions, he can write a check. If he can't write a check, then the assets must be secured now before they lose value in the crashing market. The order was signed at 9 a.m. immediate seizure. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, effectively got a margin call on his life's work, and he couldn't meet it. So, what does Letitia James take? She doesn't want the golf courses. They are hard to sell, losing money and full of legal complications. She wants the cash flow. She wants the trophy assets. Target 1, 40 Wall Street, the Trump building. This is the crown jewel of the liquidation list. It's a massive skyscraper in the financial district. But here's the catch. Trump doesn't own the land. He owns the ground lease. Ground leases are tricky. If you default on debt or judgments, the lease can be voided or sold. Taking 40 Wall Street hits Trump where it hurts. His identity as a New York mogul, it is valuable. It is liquid relatively, and it is symbolic. Target 2, Trump Tower, commercial and retail. Not the penthouse yet, the bottom floors, the Gucci store, the atrium, the office space. The sheriff can appoint a receiver. This is a court-appointed CEO who takes over the building. Imagine this: a bureaucrat appointed by a Democrat attorney general walking into Trump Tower, firing the Trump org management, and redirecting all the rent checks from the tenants directly to the state of New York. The president would still own it on paper, but he would lose control. He would lose the cash flow. He would be a tenant in his own building. Target 3, the Seven Springs estate. This is the property in Westchester that was at the heart of the fraud case. Inflated valuations, it is low-hanging fruit. It's not his home. It's an investment property. Seizing it is clean. Target 4, the bank accounts. This is the most immediate threat. The sheriff can send a levy to every bank in New York, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, etc. Any account with the name Trump Organization gets frozen. The money is siphoned out to pay the judgment. If this happens on a Monday morning payroll run, Trump or employees don't get paid. The maids at the hotels, the doormen, the executives, checks bounce. That is how you kill a company in 24 hours. This is where the situation moves from financial crisis to constitutional crisis. Trump Tower is not just an office building. It is the private residence of the President of the United States. It is a fortress. The Secret Service controls the perimeter. They control the elevators. They control the airspace. The sheriff of New York City is a law enforcement officer. He has a court order signed by a judge commanding him to enter the premises and inventory assets. So, what happens when the sheriff walks up to the revolving doors on Fifth Avenue? The scenario: the sheriff approaches. The Secret Service agent stands in the way. Sir, you cannot enter. This is a secure zone protecting the National Command Authority. The sheriff says, I have a warrant to seize this property. The agent says, federal law supersedes state law. For security reasons, access is denied. This is a standoff. Guns are present. Egos are massive. The Attorney General anticipates this. That is why they are likely targeting the commercial entities first. You don't need to go into the penthouse to seize the bank accounts of the LLC that owns the penthouse. But the optics: imagine the news footage of New York State officials pasting seized stickers on the windows of the Gucci store in the lobby of the president's home. It is a humiliation ritual, and it is designed to provoke a reaction. If Trump orders the Secret Service to physically block the sheriff from executing a legal civil order on a commercial business, he is getting into obstruction of justice territory. But Trump will argue they are trying to bankrupt the president to stop him from governing. This is a coup by other means. Sources inside the White House describe the mood as nuclear. Remember, Trump views his net worth as his soul. He views his buildings as his children. To him, this is not a legal dispute. It is a personal violation. He is reportedly on the phone with his new attorney general, whoever replaced the previous one in the recent purges, demanding that the DOJ intervene. He wants the Department of Justice to file an emergency injunction in federal court, arguing that a sitting president is immune from civil asset seizure. This is a novel legal theory. The Supreme Court ruled in Clinton versus Jones that a president can be sued civilly, but can he be evicted? Can his business be liquidated while he is trying to run the country? The argument will be distraction. Your Honor, the president cannot negotiate the Greenland Treaty or solve the Japan crisis if he is worried about his furniture being auctioned off on eBay. This is an undue burden on the executive branch. It's the unitary executive theory taken to its financial limit. He is arguing that his wallet and the national treasury are functionally linked because his attention is a national asset. But the Japan crisis makes this argument weaker. The public is seeing their 401ks drop. They are seeing inflation. If the president says stop everything and save my golf course, the political optics are suicidal. This connects back to the total wipeout poll. If he uses the power of the presidency to save his own fortune while the country suffers, he loses the populist mantle forever. Usually, when a billionaire gets in a liquidity crunch, he makes a phone call. He calls a Saudi prince. He calls a Wall Street friend. He calls a hedge fund. Loan me $500 million for 6 months. I'm good for it. But today is Saturday, January 24th, 2026. The markets are broken. The Japanese banks are pulling cash home. The American banks are terrified of regulatory blowback and the crashing bond market. The Saudi put might not be there because oil prices are volatile due to the recession fears. Donald Trump is toxic collateral. Who wants to lend $500 million to a president who is at war with the courts, whose assets are being seized, and who might be impeached if the midterms go badly? The risk premium is too high. This is why the immediate seizure order is so deadly. The judge knows Trump is illiquid. The judge knows the Japan shock froze the credit markets. They struck at the exact moment of maximum vulnerability. It is a coordinated financial decapitation strike. How does this play in Peoria, the MAGA base? They see this as theft. They see this as communism. They are stealing his buildings. Expect rallies outside Trump Tower. Expect donations to the Legal Defense Fund to spike. Although $464 million is hard to raise from $50 donations, this solidifies the narrative that the system is trying to destroy him. It creates a martyrdom complex that is incredibly powerful. The independence. This is the danger zone. Americans like winners. There is a psychology to wealth. Part of Trump's appeal was, I'm rich, I can't be bought. If he is broke, if his buildings are seized, if he is viewed as a deadbeat, the aura of competence shatters. He can't even manage his own bond. How can he manage the economy? Combined with the wipeout poll and the Japan crash, this paints a picture of a collapsing administration. It looks like the end of a regime. The donors, the big money, the guys who backed him in 2024 are gone. They see the asset seizure as the final straw. They don't want their names attached to a sinking ship. The invisible primary for 2028 starts today. Dantis, Vance, and others are watching this and thinking, he's done. He's financially ruined and politically toxic. It's time to move on. So how does this end? It ends at the Supreme Court. Trump's team will file an emergency stay request with Justice Sotomayor, who oversees the Second Circuit. She will likely deny it or refer it to the full court. Then the Trump court, the 6-3 conservative majority, has to decide. Do they step in? Do they issue a ruling saying state courts cannot seize the assets of a sitting president? If they do, they look like partisan hacks protecting their patron. The legitimacy of the court already hanging by a thread snaps. If they don't, they let the leader of their party be humiliated and potentially bankrupted. It is the ultimate test for Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. And remember, they read the polls too. They see the wipeout numbers. They might decide that Trump is a liability. They might decide to let New York have him. We are witnessing the final act of the Trump business story. Whether he saves the buildings or not, the damage is done. The veil of invincibility is pierced. The billionaire is being treated like a foreclosure victim. As we head into Sunday, watch the feeds. Watch for the receiver to be appointed. Watch for the bank levy notices. Watch for the truth social storm. But most importantly, watch the Japanese markets when they open on Sunday night, U.S. time. If the financial crash continues, Trump's personal problems will become the least of our worries. But for one man sitting in the White House watching his name being ripped off the facades of his life's work, this is the apocalypse. Trump's empire is under siege, and this time the walls are actually being breached. Subscribe, stay tuned. The history books are being written this weekend. Let's get technical about what a court-appointed receiver actually does, because this is the specific legal mechanism that will dismantle the Trump org from the inside out. In New York law, under CPLR Article 52, a judge can appoint a receiver to administer the property of a judgment debtor. This isn't just a monitor. This is a replacement for the owner. The receiver has the power to collect rents. All the tenants in 40 Wall Street, the law firms, the businesses get a letter. Do not pay Trump. Pay the receiver. Manage operations. The receiver decides who cleans the floors, who works security, and who gets fired. They can fire the Trump kids if they are on the payroll. Sell the asset. If the cash flow isn't enough to pay the judgment, the receiver can list the building for sale. Imagine the psychological warfare of this. Eric Trump or Don Jr. show up to work at Trump Tower. The receiver, a court-appointed lawyer, likely a Democrat or a neutral institutional figure, calls them into a conference room and says, "Hand over your keys. You are relieved of your duties." They can't call Dad. Dad can't do anything. The receiver answers only to the judge. This is a hostile takeover sanctioned by the state. It turns the Trump organization into a zombie entity that exists solely to pay Letitia James. And because these are private companies, LLCs, the corporate veil piercing that occurred in the fraud trial allows this. The Trump brand becomes a tenant of the state of New York. Here is the other shoe that drops. Real estate is built on debt. Trump has loans on these buildings, hundreds of millions owed to ladders, lenders, Axos Bank, etc. Almost every commercial loan has a covenant or a clause called bad boy guarantees or judgment defaults. It says if you get a massive civil judgment against you that you can't pay, or if your assets are seized, you are technically in default on the mortgage. Even if Trump is current on his monthly mortgage payments, the seizure order itself can trigger a default. If the lenders declare default, they can call the loan. Pay us the full $100 million now. Trump doesn't have it. So the banks foreclose on top of the state seizing the equity. It becomes a feeding frenzy. The state wants the equity. The bank wants the principal. The asset gets torn apart. And in a Japan crash environment, the banks are not going to be lenient. They want their cash back. They will accelerate the loans immediately to protect their own balance sheets. This is the domino effect of asset seizure. One card falls and the whole tower comes down. Let's push the scenario to the extreme. The president is losing his mind over this. He is distracted. He is paranoid. He is spending 18 hours a day with lawyers instead of generals. The Japan crisis is melting the global economy, and the president is tweeting about Letitia James. At what point does the cabinet look at this and say he is compromised? He is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office because of financial duress. The 25th Amendment. It sounds crazy, but if the president tries to order the military to seize the New York Supreme Court, or if he tries to nationalize the banks to save his accounts, that is the moment the cabinet has to act. The asset seizure creates a conflict of interest so massive that it threatens the stability of the executive branch. His personal survival is now at odds with the legal order of the country. This is exactly what the founders feared. This is why the emoluments clause exists. This is why blind trusts exist. Trump refused all of that. And now the bill is due. If the receiver sells 40 Wall Street next week, what is it worth? In 2023, it was valued at maybe $300 million optimistically. But in 2026, commercial real estate in NYC is already hurting from remote work. Interest rates just spiked because of the Japan crisis. And everyone knows it's a forced sale, it's a fire sale. Vultures like Blackstone or foreign sovereign wealth funds will come in and offer pennies on the dollar. We'll give you $50 million for the lease. The receiver might have to take it. So Trump loses the building, but the sale price doesn't even cover the judgment. He loses the asset and still owes the money. He gets stripped clean and stays in debt. This is the brutality of forced liquidation in a bear market. It destroys equity. The billions Trump claims to have could evaporate into millions or zero once the liquidity discount is applied. What does Putin think when he sees this? What does Xi Jinping think? They see a weak American leader. They see a leader who can't even protect his own house. In authoritarian cultures, power is absolute. The idea that a local judge could take the emperor's palace is laughable. They interpret this as American chaos. Democracy doesn't work. Look at them. They are eating their own president. This emboldens them. It makes the Greenland threats look like bluffs. If he can't stop Letitia James, how is he going to stop the People's Liberation Army? The projection of power relies on the projection of stability. The sheriff's notice on Trump Tower is a billboard advertising American instability to the world. Remember the Greenland deal we talked about yesterday, the strategic partnership that relied on U.S. corporate investment. Those CEOs are watching this. They are seeing the Japan crash. They are seeing the president's legal meltdown. Are they going to commit billions to a Greenland project led by this administration? Or are they going to wait and see? The deal might fall apart because the closer Trump is busy fighting off the repo man, the policy agenda freezes when the personal crisis takes over. We are looking at a paralyzed presidency. Let's talk about the penthouse, Trump Tower, penthouse, the gold doors, the Louis XIV furniture. It is his sanctuary. It is his image. Even if the sheriff doesn't enter it today, the legal threat hangs over it. Every time he goes to sleep there, he knows it might belong to the state of New York soon. That psychological pressure is immense. Sighs and gasps. For a man who defines himself by winning and ownership, becoming a squatter in his own mind is a fate worse than jail. It explains the rage. It explains the panic. He is fighting for his identity. So, as we wrap up this 5,000-word analysis, or however long we've been ranting, understand the gravity. This isn't just celebrity gossip. This is the stress test of the American Republic. Can the law touch the highest office? Can the system survive the backlash if it does? And can the economy survive the crossfire? We are in uncharted waters. The maps are useless. The sheriff is at the door. The bond market is burning, and the president is cornered. History teaches us that cornered leaders are dangerous, rushed,